Wow, what can I say? We're just gonna go higher. We are joined with our next special guest, Miss Chawanis Ash, and she is the author of The Distance Between God and Me. Welcome to Atlanta Live.
Thank you, it's so good to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Wow, I love the name of the book. But before we get into the book, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Chawanis Ash, and I am a therapist and pastoral counselor here in Atlanta, Georgia, in one of the suburbs east of Atlanta. And I've been working as a pastoral counselor in private practice for about 6 years. I've been in the mental health field for 10, almost 11 years. And so I'm just excited to be here to talk about this wonderful work that the Lord has really blessed me to write, and given me an opportunity and a platform to share a little bit about my story and what I think would be most beneficial to women today.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love the title of your book and The Distance Between God and Me. What inspired you to this title and to write the book?
My personal life story, the relationship with my father, is really what inspired me to write the book. When I was a young girl, I simply adored my father. He could absolutely do no wrong in my sight. And it was later on in my adolescent years that we made a discovery. Our family discovered that my father had an addiction. And that broke my heart. It really broke my heart and tore me to pieces. And so throughout my latter adolescent years and my young adulthood, I was in search for something. I had been broken and wounded, and I was in search of love and acceptance. But all I was experiencing was abandonment and rejection. And so what birthed out of me through that experience was an opportunity to build this platform to help women who have had some of those same experiences where they have lost a loved one or had some type of traumatic situation to happen in their lives and kind of lost themselves. This book is written to really inspire them, to let them know you are not your past. Your past does not define you, but it is a part of the story of greatness that God has birthed in each and every one of us. And so I share a little bit about my story, how I found reconciliation with not only my earthly father, but my heavenly father. The title, The Distance Between God and Me, I talk about how I held God responsible for taking my father away from me. And so I walked around with a lot of not only self-condemnation and condemnation of my father, but anger towards God. But I was raised in the church all my life, and I was raised in the culture church, Pentecostal. Yeah. And so we were taught, you don't talk back to God, you accept everything that God, does and allows in your life, and that's it. And so I was walking around with this burden of unforgiveness and anger towards God, and it created a distance not only between God and myself, but it also created distance between who I really was as an individual, as a woman. I was still walking around as this broken little girl, a victim of my life circumstances, and that really prevented me from not only tying into my authentic self. And when we talk about authenticity, it's as simple as you, being you, not the facade that we wear to hide and mask our pain. But it created that distance between who God really created me to be, and that kept me from moving forward in the direction, the purposes, and the fulfillment that God placed for my life.
Yes. And what were some of the steps? Because I really, I know that there are people out there that are watching and they're saying, that's me. She's talking about me. I've been crippled by my past. But of course we know that, where the past is and then to where we are now, there's a process that needs to take place. So what were some of the things that you did to help start the process of of the revealing of who you really were, and that God really wasn't the one responsible for the things. Although he allowed it, he wasn't responsible for it. And then you being reconciled to God. What were some of the practical steps that you took?
First, I had to have an awareness that I was playing the victim. I had to understand that I needed to take responsibility for what had happened in my life. Not the part that I didn't cause, but how I held myself hostage from taking any responsibility of my behavior based upon my hurt and my pain. And so once I did that, I had to find the courage to begin to resolve these issues of the past. A lot of times things happen to us as children and as teenagers and sometimes even adults, and we hold on to it by suppressing it and burying it went beneath saying, I don't want to deal with that, or that's too ugly, that's too painful, I'll just keep going on. But what happens is it lies buried deep beneath the surface. And after time, it perpetuates itself throughout our adulthood, and it shows up at the most inopportune time. So now we're acting out in so many different ways because we want love and acceptance and attention, but in order to get what it is that we truly desire, we have to resolve those issues of the past. So we got to call a thing a thing. Whatever it is that has happened in my life, I accept that it has happened, but I also understand that that thing does not define me. So in my process of resolving that, I have to forgive. And this is very important. I talk about this in the book. Forgiveness is paramount. Now, when we choose to forgive, it doesn't mean that I co-sign on what somebody did to me. It doesn't mean I agree with it. It doesn't mean that I excuse it. But me making a decision to forgive means that I'm going to walk forward in the destiny that God has intended for me by not holding on to something that I cannot change. Yes. So there are 3 people in the resolving these past issues that you have to forgive. First, you got to forgive yourself. And that is weird. A lot of people, it sounds weird. A lot of people don't understand forgiving myself. What does that mean? I forgive myself for holding myself hostage and for playing the victim to not take responsibility for what has happened in my life. I am not perfect. I can learn from my mistakes, I can learn from my poor decisions, and I can move forward. That is how you operate in forgiveness of self. The second part of forgiveness is God. I have to forgive God and truly understand God did not allow my father's addiction to happen in my life to punish me, but it is a part of the reconciliation process of me getting to know God on a deeper level and him using that part of the story to bless someone else who has experienced something similar to what my process has been. So first, I accept myself for being a victim. Second, I forgive myself for playing the victim. I forgive God for allowing, or in my mind, allowing this thing to happen in my life. And thirdly, I had to forgive my dad. So you have to forgive whoever caused the indiscretion. You have to forgive that person. Now, just because I forgive you don't mean we have to be friends, buddy, buddy, chummy, chummy. But what it means is I will no longer allow the baggage of your behavior to hold me hostage. Now, the great part about my process is not only did God allow me the process of forgiving my father, but he reconciled that situation. In order for me to do that, I didn't hold my dad responsible for what happened many, many years ago. I accepted what happened and then began to create a new relationship with who God destined him to be, because he went through his process. You know, he went through recovery and all of this good stuff. And so now we can have a relationship based upon where you are today. Because if I stay stuck in the past, I can't move forward. I can't walk and operate in forgiveness. And so that is a part of the resolving the past pains that we experience in our life to help us get to who we were truly destined to be. And that is our true authentic self.
Okay. That is so good. That's some good stuff right there. Those are good wisdom nuggets. That's what I'm going to call them. Because now let's revisit. You said we must take responsibility for our behavior. In other words, we can't give an excuse to have a bad attitude or to be rude or to be unkind to someone or to act, you know, unbecomingly because these things have been done to us. We must still be responsible for your actions. In other words, just because you are angry that someone has violated you does not give you the right to cause everyone else to pay that debt for what that person has done to you. So we have to be responsible for our behavior. Absolutely. That is good right there. Absolutely. Okay, you got that? All right. And then 2, you said we must forgive. You know, we must forgive ourselves, we must forgive the person that did it, and we must forgive God. Wow, that's powerful. So forgiveness is key. Yes. Wow. And when we do those things, when we really understand forgiveness, and understanding that you are not the victim. So the opposite of being a victim is the victor.
Yes.
So really God allowed it because he says all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So we're the victors. That's good.
Absolutely. And as victors, it puts us in position to truly live the life that we desire to live.
Yes.
You know, as women, we are called to so many things, to so many people. And the book, I say to women, but it's written to women, but it's for men too. Anybody who is searching for who they truly are, their true purpose and fulfillment, meaning for their life. And when we go through the process and resolve the issues of the past, it then puts us in position to really begin to embrace the life that we truly desire, embrace the life that has been destined and specifically created for us. So if I want to be a business owner, if I want to be an entrepreneur, if I want to be a philanthropist, if I want to build a home in Haiti for broken women, whatever it is that we desire to do, if I want to travel, if I want to have a family, if I want to have a lasting marriage, whatever that dream is, that desire is, we can have those things and it will be attainable. But we don't want to ruin the blessing that God provides for us by staying stuck with all of the baggage from the past. So choosing to resolve those issues, it puts you in position to get those things.
Now, when you say resolve issues, I can hear people saying, I want to resolve the issues. Everybody is telling me, resolve your issues. But sometimes it's not easy, right, for you to resolve them. So, because maybe the people are not there, you know, or at reach, you know, or some of the issues you might not have the knowledge that you need, or, you know, to be able to have access to people or things that can help you. So what would you say to that? And that's leading to what you do on a daily basis, and that is pastoral counseling. How important is counseling in dealing with unresolved issues?
Counseling is very important in this process. But before I address that, I have to say, the person who caused the indiscretion doesn't have to be present or in arm's reach for you to resolve the issue, because it's not about them. It's about you. It was allowed to happen in your life for your story. If the person is around and you can resolve and reconcile with them, that's great. But if they're not, it doesn't mean that you're still lost and you're broken. As a pastoral counselor, I see countless women and men that come in on a daily basis that are having trouble and difficulty functioning in their daily life. What I help them to do is get to the root of the issue, because if you just prune the branches off the tree in spring, that tree is coming back, right? My job is to help them, to empower them, to walk with them, to coach them, to motivate them, sometimes even to challenge and push them to dig deep. Let's look where the story really began, and let's begin to understand that you are not responsible for what has happened to you, but you are responsible with what you do with what has happened to you. And so I walk people through that process. And, you know, a lot of times people say, well, how long does it take? And my answer is the same all the time. It takes the time that it takes. You didn't get here overnight, and you're not going to come out of it overnight. But if you stay committed to the process, you can have the end result you desire.
That word commitment, I like that. Committed to the process. I was sitting here and I was looking at some of the table of contents, some of your topics, and I love what I see here. Courage to leap. Your first love, authentically you. Now, sort of touch on that a little bit. I know you can't give us it all, and we have a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about the authentically you.
Being authentically you means that you stand in your truth. You don't, you know, they say that flattery, the highest form of flattery is when someone copies you, right? Imitation, that's the word I'm looking for. Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Well, maybe not so much. I think that God specifically designed and created you and then broke the mold. And so we don't have to chase after other people imitating what we see to be loved and accepted. But when we love, accept, and validate who we truly are, then we can walk in who we were purposed to be. And sometimes that's difficult to do because of all of the pain and the residue and the remnants of what has happened. But when you take the courage to leap and to deal with those things, then the facade, the mask, all of those things begin to fall off, and you can stand in your truth and really love and embrace and accept yourself and be who God has called you to be.
Wow. We can spend, I'm telling you, we can spend so much time together, and this has been a powerful first half. How can people reach you? What's your website?
My website is www.chawanis, that's CHAWANIS.com, and I'm also on Facebook at Chawanis J. Ash.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to our first hour. Thank you for being with us.